I spent months restoring my late father's vintage motorcycle. One morning, I found it knocked over, scratched deep into the frame. My neighbor's son smiled and said, "It's just a bike." It looked old anyway. I walked away without a word. The next day, he came outside to find something missing. I'm a 38-year-old mechanic living in Knoxville, Tennessee. I've been here my whole life. My dad passed away 2 years ago from a heart attack. He was a quiet, hard-working man who taught me how to use a wrench, how to respect machines, and how to keep my mouth shut unless something needed saying. He didn't leave much behind, no big inheritance or anything like that, but he did leave me his old motorcycle. It was a 1965 Triumph Benaval. I remembered it from when I was a kid. He used to take it out on Sundays and clean it like it was a damn Ferrari. After Mom died, he stopped riding, just covered it in a tarp and let it sit in the garage until the metal started rusting and the seats started cracking. After he died, I made it my project. That bike was the only thing that really felt like him. I cleared out my garage, built a workbench, and started restoring it piece by piece. I worked long shifts at the shop during the day, then came home and spent my nights fixing that bike. I stripped the whole thing down, ordered parts online, sanded down every inch of rust, and painted it myself in that same deep British racing green it had when it was new. It took 6 months. It wasn't just a bike anymore, it was my way of grieving and healing. I finished it in October. It looked perfect and ran better than it ever had. I parked it in my driveway. Every now and then, when the weather was good, sometimes I just sat on the porch and looked at it, thinking about all those rides Dad used to take. It made me feel close to him again. Then one morning, I opened the door, coffee in hand, and saw it lying on its side. The kickstand was snapped. The gas tank had 2 deep scratches running right across the Triumph logo. The handlebar grip was half torn off. The mirror was hanging by a thread, swinging in the wind. I didn't say a word. I just stood there, staring at it, feeling my chest tighten. That's when I heard laughing. I turned my head and saw Ethan, my neighbor's teenage son, sitting on their porch, bouncing a tennis ball off the wall like a little smartass. He smirked and said, "It's just a bike." It looked old anyway. I didn't answer him. I didn't go over there. I didn't scream or punch anything. I just walked over to the bike, lifted it gently, and wheeled it back into the garage. I locked the door behind me and sat there, staring at the scratches. I stayed in that garage most of the day, trying not to lose it. My hands were shaking. I wanted to break something, but I didn't. Instead, I made a decision. The next morning, I was back on my porch drinking coffee. Ethan came outside in a tank top and pajama pants, yawning. He walked to the driveway, heading toward his dad's 2023 Dodge Charger. They treated the thing like a trophy, always polishing it, keeping it clean, never parking too close to anyone at the store. But the car didn't look right. It was tilted. All 4 wheels were gone. The car was sitting on 4 dirty, mismatched cinder blocks. The wheel wells were empty. The brake rotors were sitting in the grass, like someone had taken their time pulling them off, which I had. I'd done it just before dawn, in the dark, like a ghost. I didn't scratch the car. I didn't break anything. I just lifted it clean and professional, pulled the wheels, and vanished. I sold them to a guy I knew an hour later, cash in hand, no questions. Ethan stood there, frozen. Then he looked at me. I didn't say a word. He stormed over to the porch. "You think this is funny?" he yelled. I just looked at him and said, "It's just a car." Looked new anyway. He looked like he wanted to hit me, but he didn't. That night, his dad came home and lost his damn mind. I heard yelling through the walls, heard the words police, insurance fraud, and useless little punk, but no one knocked on my door. They knew they couldn't prove a damn thing. Their security camera, I knew it wasn't hooked up. Ethan had told me that months ago while bragging about how his dad was too cheap to pay for cloud storage. I remembered every word. But I wasn't done. Because Ethan didn't just hurt my bike, he mocked my father's memory. So I started watching him. Ethan was sloppy. He snuck out around 11:30 every Saturday night, took his mom's Toyota Highlander, and drove downtown to meet his friends at some late-night pizza place or dive bar. He wasn't old enough to drink, but that didn't stop him. I followed him. I parked a block away, took pictures from across the street, him laughing, drinking, passing a joint, hanging on some girl. Every Saturday, I added more to my little collection. I wasn't stalking him, I was building a case. After 3 weeks, I had enough. I put all the pictures on a flash drive, labeled it Ethan's Nights, and dropped it in their mailbox around 6 a.m. By noon, all hell had broken loose. His dad's voice was echoing down the block. "You think we raised you for this? You've been driving drunk. That's our car." Ethan didn't come outside for the rest of the day. 2 days later, I caught him trying to break into my garage. It was 2 a.m. I was still up, listening to the radio in the kitchen, when I heard a metal scrape. I peeked out the window and saw him with a crowbar, trying to pry open my side door. I stepped outside quietly, stood behind him, and said, "You better think hard about what happens next." He jumped 3 feet in the air and ran down the driveway without saying a word. I didn't call the cops. I called my cousin Nate. Nate's a warehouse security guy over in Oak Ridge, but before that, he spent a good chunk of his 20s running with some people I won't name. He's clean now, has a family, but favors are favors. I asked him for something simple. Find me a junk frame motorcycle, looks burned or destroyed. I'll pay. 2 days later, he showed up with the frame of a Suzuki someone had torched in a garage fire. We stripped it further, spray painted it the same green as my Benaval, bent the metal to make it look like it had crashed, and wrapped a dirty rag around the handlebars. Then I added a picture. Ethan passed out drunk in the grass behind a bar, vomit by his shoes. We boxed it all up and left it on his porch at 4 a.m. He opened it around 6:30. I watched through the curtains as he backed away from the box, then threw up in the bushes. His parents didn't ask any questions. They just looked scared. And Ethan, he didn't come out for 3 days after that package. Things went quiet, too quiet. Ethan stopped going to school. His friends stopped coming around. No more basketball bouncing in the driveway, no more smug laughs or sideways looks. He started pulling the blinds shut in the house, like he thought someone was always watching. He wasn't wrong. I kept an eye on him because I knew that kind of kid doesn't just go away. He was angry, humiliated, and worse, cornered. Cornered animals lash out.